My name is Sandy Close. I'm the director of a long organization with a long history of working with ethnic media and with youth communication and student journalism. And boy, have I had a fantastic experience with my colleague Jaya Padmanaban working with the students at Delta. I can't see this as my last day here. I want to really say maybe it's the first of an ongoing relationship with your wonderful campus. I hope so. But why the survey? This is a pilot project, and your presence here today is critical to that project. Depression thrives on silence. It thrives in the dark. When people are feeling low, anxious, stressful, the worst thing is when they feel there's no one they can turn to, no one who would get it, no one who would understand. We have had the great experience of bringing 11 students. There were more originally, but it boiled down, as these projects do, to 11 committed students. And over a 10-week period, they've met every week with Jaya and myself to share their thoughts and experiences, not simply about themselves and their own lives, their own friends, and their own relatives with mental health issues, especially depression, but more importantly, what could their work do to help Delta College address issues of mental health and depression? So the extraordinary goal of which your participation here is so important is to break the silence, to spotlight people's own stories so they don't have to grapple with the problem of depression alone in the dark. The important thing for each of us to think about is if you train 11 or 12 students who are committed to communication of some sort, and the Department of Fine Arts, Communications and Fine Arts has been our great supporter throughout this program. All the students were recruited by that department. If your idea is to be a communicator, then tell us, if we were to discuss these issues publicly, break the taboo that leads to silence, would that be a model for how we could do this in other community college campuses? We are looking at what our student partners did on this project and what you think when you hear about some of the stories. And we are asking ourselves, could this be a model we could take to other campuses? And for that reason, we invited a graduate student from Stanford Med School who is also going to speak to you today. And she has been observing, but also helping. None of us are experts on this. In fact, we know very little, most of us. And this is why the one thing we are asking is, what would it take to make people feel comfortable to share what they're going through, or to help somebody who is going through it, even if they don't know very much? So that's why your presence really matters. And do please fill out the questionnaire. That's my introduction. And now I want to thank the person who opened the door and invited us into Delta, Dr. Kathleen Hart, the president of Delta, to welcome you here as well.
Well, welcome, everyone. It's very exciting to be here today. I want to tell you just really briefly kind of how this happened and how these are the kinds of things that happen to me all the time in this community. And it's one of the reasons why I love the job I have, is that I'm out in the community a lot. People will come up to me and ask me things, ask me if Delta would be interested in this or that, and lots of times I'll bring back that idea and talk to some of the faculty or the deans or students about whether they're interested in these kinds of things. This was about 2 years ago, I guess. We had an event here that was designed to help people expunge their records, and Sandy's group was here, and I was introduced to her, and she mentioned a little bit about this project, and then I left and she left, and nothing happened for a while. And not long, well, 6 months later, another person that I knew, I'm on the Stockton Arts Commission, another person that I knew approached me and said, you know, would you consider talking to Sandy again? Because she really liked Delta, and she thought that Delta would be a great place to do this project. So I said, sure. And so I called Sandy, and then I gathered together some people that I thought might be interested in it. She was mainly interested in the kind of RTV journalism side of it, in having it happen through this program, but the real purpose was to actually to help students, to create a program that would help students, especially those students who are suffering with depression and other forms of mental issues. I gathered the faculty and a bunch of other people together and had Sandy come over and explain what she wanted to do, and people, once again, were very interested in this and thought it would be a really great thing for the students who are in these programs in arts and communication, as well as for students who are suffering from depression. So it seemed like a really great idea. Time passed, and then Sandy contacted me again and said, well, do you think we can do this? And so I connected her again with Adrienne and some of the other faculty, and today is the culmination of that. And I'm really excited to see what you've all produced and where we're going to be able to go from here. So thank you, Sandy, for being persistent, and thank you, faculty, for being willing to participate in this. I think it's really a great thing for the college and for our students. So, thank you.
Professor Adrienne Brogger was our prime liaison with campus and with the Department of Communications and Fine Arts. I don't see you. There you are. Okay, please help with the welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandy and Dr. Hart. I don't want to take up too much time, so I'm going to be really brief. I just want to say that we are so grateful for this opportunity to be made available to Delta College students. The students that you see on the panel are from throughout the multimedia discipline. So that involves Tara Kuslage-Stayano upstairs in mass communication journalism, and then Melanie Marshall's students, as well as the flyer being produced. That was graphic arts and photography as well, Kirsten Russell. And I know Kirsten is next door in her final doing critique, so I don't think she'll be able to make it all, but she is going to expect to pop in. And I also want to acknowledge our dean, Christopher Guptill, who's here. So thank you for being here, Chris. Thank you. And as communicators, as people who tell stories, we know the impact that storytelling has and the ability that stories have to take really complex issues that are hard to talk about and to break them down into more simple, easy to understand, and easy to feel ways of communicating, and that this kind of storytelling is really relevant. So we're so grateful, and that's all I want to say. Thank you, and welcome to RTV.
Finally, in the welcome and introductions, I want to pay a special acknowledgement to the California Healthcare Foundation, which provided the funding for this project, and Lisa Alperas, who is here from the foundation. Thank you so much for coming and for being patient and for allowing us to do this project. So now to the program, and to guide you through the program and moderate the program, one of the student partners, Carmen Cruz. And Carmen.
I'm grateful to be here today as one of the 11 participants for Break the Silence project here at Delta College. I actually did a podcast that's available on the website, deltabreakthesilence.org. We're going to start off with Adrienne Lassiter. She is a student graduate from the Community Health and Prevention Research at Stanford University, School of Medicine. And she will explain the surveys that we conducted here on campus.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It's really great to see this turnout. Like Carmen mentioned, my name is Adrienne Lassiter, and I am a research coordinator and also a graduate student at Stanford. And I was really excited to work on this project and help Sandy with the project. So my role was the kind of informal evaluator of the project, but definitely I feel like my role grew as time went on in the project. As somebody who grew up in the Central Valley, when I learned about this program and having worked with, in the adolescent health promotion field and also in education, this program and this project really spoke to me. So I'm very, very grateful to have participated. And today I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the survey results. So I think most of you have met some of the participants in the project, the 11 participants, and they conducted a campus-wide survey interviewing students from different areas, randomly asked people to participate in a survey, which can be a pretty daunting task, but they conducted 158 surveys, which is not an insignificant amount. That's quite a lot of data to actually pull from, and a lot of the results were really surprising, and some were not. So I wanted to kind of just briefly explain to you a little bit about what we found. So, like I said, there was 158 surveys, and when you get your kind of printed results here, you can see we have them listed on a few pages. So, out of the students who were surveyed, more than 30% said they were not well informed about depression. In addition, 91.9% stated a need for more services on campus. Almost 80% consider mental illness a serious problem at Delta, and 60% say they have a problem with depression or anxiety. So this demonstrates that, even within this academic school year, students at Delta do identify a need for more resources and do identify mental health issues as a problem. So projects like this are really, really important because they can serve as a model that can be used across the state or across the country for different community college settings, because it's community college students report being more negatively affected by mental health issues compared to UC or CSU students. They're more likely to have detrimental effects to their academic performance due to mental health issues compared to other or to students in other institutions, and they're less likely to have resources available to them. So this project really, I think, fits a gap that's definitely missing for students. And one of the key findings that I feel like I felt from both observing the journalism workshops and also through analyzing the survey data is that Delta students are incredibly resilient. And even though they're under-resourced and maybe don't have as much on-campus support as other institutions that are possibly more well-funded, their informal peer-to-peer networks are incredibly strong, and it's very admirable that students are able to build those networks for themselves. But projects like this really demonstrate that more formal on-campus support could really provide that extra support that students here at Delta definitely deserve. So thanks. Happy to talk about any questions you might have about the surveys after. So, thanks.
Thank you, Adrienne. So in front of you, we have 5 out of 11 participants who are going to be sharing their Break the Silence stories. We have here Celine Pham, Jason Teixeira, and Michael Hanzo, and Anthony Chase, and Tyler Jimenez. So each will have 3 to 4 minutes to share their stories. And if you want to find out what the other participants had to say, you can go on the website www.deltabreakthesilence.org. Or read the journal. So we're going to start out with Anthony. Anthony. I'm so sorry. So Anthony, you interviewed a friend of yours for the project. Who was that friend, and why was it important?
Well, basically, I interviewed a friend who was not comfortable talking about this initially. I had the idea to do, for my particular project at school, my idea was to do a short segment on Wednesdays on mental health. Well, I couldn't pull people in. People just wouldn't come and talk to me. So eventually, when this project came up and Professor Broger got me into it, this person that I had been talking to off and on for about a year finally came on board, and she was just, I knew she had the words, I knew she had the experience, and so she came on board, and she is actually the mother of a child who started exhibiting mental health issues at about the age of 15, and this young man is now 37. So I actually didn't know what the question was going to be, what I was going to talk about, but I wrote something, so I'm going to go with that, because it answered the question of what I didn't know what the question was anyway. Anyway, I'd like to thank Professor Broger for recommending that I come to this meeting, first of all. I'd like to also thank Professor Broger and Professor Besalaritas, he's not here right now, and Professor Guptill and Professor Kuslich and Dean Guptill for coming and for helping us to get all this together, because without a great staff like this, we're not going to have a great RTV department where we can get together and grow ideas and actually have the opportunity to come up with a project like this where Sandy Close could come and just plug right in, to something. This is awesome, and I thank you guys for providing us with the opportunity to do this. I've experienced anecdotal patterns of people reaching out, and usually I reach back, but sometimes I don't. People reach out in different ways, and sometimes I don't know how to reach back. Sometimes I just don't have the words. Sometimes I don't even see it. There's so many ways to reach back, and if you are present and you recognize a call for help, sometimes that person will actually take your hand. I'm continually asking, what can I do to help a friend through a valley experience, if in fact they are in need of assistance? Because sometimes you have to know when to rein back and not give any assistance and just kind of keep an eye. What can a person do or say to help someone weather the storm to prevent anyone from hurting themselves or hurting others? I mean, that's a big, big situation here, not only on campus, but in the world. But we can pinpoint it down, and we can actually make a difference in our own backyard right here on campus, and I'd like to see that. In my article, Break the Silence, in the Break the Silence journal, you'll see that I've asked a lot of questions. Well, I've had many situations over the years to formulate questions. The honest, straightforward talk with the persons I interviewed, one parent and one professional, helped me to be better at knowing how to help how to have an idea, and how to recognize what you are seeing, because sometimes you're looking at it and you don't even know what it is that you're seeing. I guess my advice is to do what you do best at keeping yourself well. That's number one. To be present and really listen and present for those in your universe. And we are our brother's keepers. I know that's so cliche, and keep a light on it. All too cliche things that really mean a lot, because we are our brother's keepers. And if we keep talking about it, we can continue to put a light on it. Thank you.
So the next participant who would share his story will be Michael. Michael, what did you learn from the Break the Silence project? You can sit down with the mic.
Not really, man. You should get a microphone. Stand up. Or at least say it with your chest, man.
Yeah, whatever.
Or do you want to switch?
Yeah, can I just go up there?
Stand up, that's fine.
All right. So my name is Michael Hanzo. I write for the Delta College newspaper. And still? All right. So my name is Michael Hanzo. I write for the Delta College newspaper, and I've been a part of it for about 3 years now, 2.5 years, around there. When I first enrolled at Delta College, my experience wasn't anything that special. This could have been due to the lack of activities that students could have, been involved in, or stuff like that, or it could have just been my introverted personality. I've dealt with generalized anxiety and depression for as long as I can remember, but social anxiety was one of the biggest problems. Talking to people and just being around them in general was almost crippling for me. My high school experience wasn't any different either. I avoided other students and went out of my way to avoid conversation because anxiety was just too much to handle. The anxiety, this led to a lot of isolation, feeling alone, never really going out. And though I had a small group of friends, I still felt alone, And the anxiety and depression I had was making life difficult to deal with. But in the fall semester of 2015, I joined the Delta Collegiate newspaper. And I would attend class, but I would leave right afterwards while other editors stuck around and talked, because I didn't like to stick around and talk with people, make small conversation. But one day when I was in the newspaper room, my advisor asked me why I never stuck around like other editors did. I didn't want to tell her why, because for some reason talking about my depression and anxiety made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to burden others with problems that I had, and most importantly, I didn't want to come off as someone just trying to seek attention. 2 minutes, all right. What was that? But I told her that I had anxiety and it made me nervous to be in groups. Telling her about my anxiety is probably the best decision I made, because I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And after a while, I started to feel more comfortable. It took me a while, but I gradually started to stick around more in the newsroom, talking with other editors and forming new friendships. I noticed that my fear of talking and being around people was starting to diminish, not just in the newsroom, but everywhere in general. Life was becoming easier, and with that came confidence, especially after I was made editor-in-chief a couple semesters ago. Something I never thought that I would have accomplished, but I did, so that made me very happy. I decided at some point that being a journalist is what I wanted to do as a career. I loved it, and it truly makes me happy. I figured that if I did something I love for a living, my depression and anxiety would, go away, hopefully. But anyways, my newspaper advisor, knowing that I deal with anxiety and depression, told me about the Break the Silence project taking place this semester. I figured I'd join it. I like to write and interview people, and I understand depression well because I still deal with it to this day. Even though things are currently going pretty good in my life right now, And that's what concerned me, because I should be happy. I should be happy that I've accomplished a lot of things that I didn't think I could, but I still feel depressed. But, yeah, so, I'm sorry, one second. Talking letters. Yeah, so, I figured I'd join it. I like to write, interview people. I still deal with it, even though things are going pretty good. But now that I have been a part of things and I have accomplished things I never thought I could, those old negative thoughts and feelings still make their way to me. And most importantly, I'm sorry, if things are as good as they have ever been for me right now, why am I still feeling depression? Most importantly, will this also be the case when I've got a career and I love and have a fulfilling life? Or will it ever go away for good? I wanted to find the answer to this question, and that's when the idea for what I wanted to do for this project formed. I wanted to interview someone whose life seems to be the ideal life, someone that's living a life that a lot of people envy, you know? But they still struggle with depression. I mean, like people like Robin Williams, for example, you think they have it all, but they end up killing themselves or something. So I want to interview someone that was in that same circumstance. That is when Carmen Cruz shared with me that she got into contact with Ben Nempton. He ran, I forgot what the name of the show was called, but he had his own television show on MTV. And then they went around the world crossing off bucket lists. Like they did stuff like playing basketball with President Obama and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty awesome. But Ben Nempton, before he did all that, dropped out of college because he was struggling with depression. But, you know. So we set up an interview with him in the RTV room. We interviewed him for about 45 minutes, letting him tell his story. And a few minutes in, I asked him, even though he has all this success, do you still get depressed? Do you still find yourself feeling down? And he said, yeah, of course. He went on to say that even though your current life situation may be great, you can still at times feel miserable, but you can still try to make the best of it. So after this interview, after being a part of this project, I learned something. That for those who have been diagnosed with depression and deal with it on a day-to-day basis, it is something that will likely never go away. But I'm positive that if you still make the best of your life and aim for happiness, life will be a whole lot easier.
Thank you, Michael. Tyler, you have a personal story about growing up with depression in your family. Can you share about that, please?
Can everyone hear me okay? Before I start, I'd like to thank every single individual who took time out of their day, whether your schedule was open or busy, to make time for this. It means a lot to us and the other people who worked on this project, and we thank you. So, I'm the odd one out, I guess I say, in this group, because out of every individual who worked on this project, I am the only one who does not have a personal experience with depression. I originally came to this hoping to learn about it, and the reason being is throughout my life, I've had members of my family, people close to me, and friends who I've seen go through this. So when I originally came to this, I was hoping to learn from it, to hear other people's stories, how they lived through it, and maybe learn something so I could help or, do something other than just say, I'm here, or just stand there in silence because I don't know what to do. And throughout this project, I actually found something that I thought was a bit disturbing, but something I did not know about was just how deeply depression ran in my own family, down to my grandma, who still lives with it every day, to my aunt, God bless her, she's no longer with us, to my own mother, and even my sister. And so what I did for my project was I decided to interview my mother and my sister to find out what happened with them, because through my time growing up, I never saw, well, at least on my mother, I never saw her once show a sign of that something was wrong or that she seemed trouble. My sister was a different story, but I talked with my mother, and she told me when she was young, she got married at an early age. She had my sister, and only a few years after that, her and her first husband got divorced, and my mom was forced to live in a small apartment. It was run down, and she was a young mother working late hours a day, trying to raise a child, and she was on her own. It was frustrating, it was hard, and throughout the experience, it changed my mother, and as well as my sister, but I'll get to that later. With my mother, she was aware because luckily where she worked at, people cared about her there, and they, were worried about her. They tried helping her. They made it apparent to her that, we're here for you. So my mother did what she thought was the only option for her. She got medical help. She saw therapists. She took medication. She did everything she thought under the sun to get help. Sadly, none of those actually worked out for her, and my mother thought that she was out of options. It wasn't until one day, some person, I don't know who, maybe it was a prank or someone was just angry, but someone shattered the window in my mother's apartment, and my mom didn't have the money at the time to fix it. One of her coworkers, or you could call it as a handyman, actually showed her, explained to her how my mother herself was able to fix it, and she didn't need to pay more than like $20-$30 just to get the material to fix it. And, my mother, through trial and error, was actually able to fix the window in her apartment. It was something small, it was something minor, but to my mother, now she felt something that she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt accomplishment, she felt pride, and she felt happy. So it was something interesting because you think depression, the only way really you can help is through medical experts. But as my mom kept going, as she kept doing her own personal projects, from painting to maybe installing new carpet or even just working on the plumbing, my mother found pride and she found joy in what she did. And my mother somehow was able to conquer her demons and, for better, actually changed. And this was something you don't hear about often, which is why I thought this was an important story, is because you hear about all these places you can go to get help, but you never hear too much about people who were able to conquer it on their own. And without my mother realizing it, though she conquered her demons, she created another demon in my sister. My sister was about she was 6, I believe. And at the time, living with someone who's always depressed, it's kind of like being around someone who's always sick. It begins to affect you. And it began to lower my sister's self-worth and what she thought of herself at a very young age. And that caused problems later on. But when my mom got remarried to my father and they had me, life was good, it seemed like. My sister showed absolutely zero signs of having any form of depression or mental illness. She was a straight-A student, a top athlete, and she was ripped. Whether you believe that or not, she was literally the idol student that you would want. She was the ideal young person. I was jealous of her. I was like, I can't beat her. But, as I grew up, and as my sister began to go through high school, she went from one high school to another and another, and my time's up. I'll leave the rest untouched because I want you guys to actually look and read what I have to say online or through the journal, because I feel as though the rest of it is also important. But the main thing that I want to get across is for anyone who's suffering from any mental illness or any depression, I didn't write this because I think you shouldn't go to people for help. You shouldn't speak up. You should. And you should go to people for help. But if all else conventional means fails, that doesn't mean that there is no way to help you. There is always a way. It just might not be as simple. So I wanted to bring this up as from someone who's seen or has a mother who's gotten over it and a sister to this day who's fighting and is still fighting to this day. I want people to know that there is always hope and you can fight as well.
Thank you, Tyler. Celine, you wrote a personal essay on the journal, but you and Caitlin went and interviewed several LGBTQ persons.
Yeah.
Can you please share that?
All right, so for our project, we pretty much interviewed 2 students. One was a transgender male, and then one was a gay man. I actually prepared a speech, so I'm gonna start. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Celine. How are you guys doing? Hey, Celine. All right, I want to let you guys know that I appreciate you guys all coming here today. And today I just want you guys to trust me. So today I just want you to close your eyes and just imagine waking up every single day of your life, not being able to walk the way you want, not being able to talk the way you want, not being able to wear what you want. That was me. I want you guys to open your eyes. Sometimes I don't even feel comfortable going to the restrooms here at Delta or just in general, because I feel like people misgender me or they assume that I'm transgender. And does that make me less of a woman if I like to wear pants, or I like to wear shirts, or I like to wear shoes, or that I cut my hair short? Does that make me lesser of a woman? I feel like society boxes us with our clothes. And I don't know about you, but one of my life goals is to be a mother and to give birth and experience that whole thing. And I want to raise my child to see more than just the clothes, to see beyond it. I want to be able to walk around my house and wear my boxers, and for my child to still see that I'm a beautiful woman, and that even though I might have short hair, I'm still a beautiful woman. And I think that that's one of the reasons why some students here on campus who are LGBT are depressed, or just in general, I feel like they are depressed. Because society puts us all in a box where we're supposed to talk a certain way, walk a certain way, or, wear certain things. And so I realized during this project that we're all the same. When we laugh, we feel the same thing. When we feel happiness, we feel the same thing. And when we feel sadness, we feel the same thing. And so I just hope that when you guys walk out of this room, you guys look beyond the clothes than just judging somebody by what they wear, and you judge somebody by their character. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine. Jason, you have a story to share?
Yes. Hello, can everyone hear me clearly? Good. So, I'd like to tell you about a story regarding the internet. I use the internet a lot. It's one of my main things that I use to help unwind. And about a year or so ago, I had joined a role-playing community on a website known as Reddit, for those of you who don't know. And I loved this community. I was one of its formative members. When the community was only a month old, I had joined it, and I had put myself forward eager, ready to work, ready to help the community to grow and flourish. And during my time there, I had done exactly that. I had taken it from a 30-member community that had 100 people following it to hundreds of members and about 1,000 subscribers that were all just happily reading the posts that everyone else had put up. And from there, I loved my time there. It was fantastic. However, there were toxic members who had gained influence in the community, toxic, manipulative people that the other moderators had taken a liking toward. Of course, I didn't like this. I called them out on their toxicity. And someone else decided to air my dirty laundry, air out what I truly thought about that person and how they made me feel. And that person made that completely public. And doing that, I was turned into a social pariah. I was no longer welcomed with a smiling face from the rest of the members. I was judged and harassed. I wasn't seen as someone that could be trusted because this person had harassed me and I got angry about it. I left the community. I couldn't handle that. And for days on end, I had depression to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I loved this community so much, I saw these people as a family. And because of the actions of one person, I was kicked out of that family. And however, though, when I left, something that surprised me happened. Several of the members who were closer to me had left alongside me. They realized that I did nothing wrong. They were with me through and through, and they supported me in my efforts. From there, I left that community and started a new one, trying to keep as level-headed as I could, and that community is still flourishing, it's still growing, it still has activity to this day, and it's fantastic. And I asked a few of these members who I had spent time with a few questions regarding depression and anxiety, because these people have been so close to me. They helped me through everything. Someone I know, his name is Mick P. Housen. He's out of Chicago. I asked him whether or not he turns to online friends if he's depressed or down, and he said, yes, they may not be able to physically help, but having someone to listen to my problems or even just a place to escape for a little bit has helped my depression. Having people with shared interests to speak has been great for me. And I can firmly agree with him there. These people who I've spent a good solid chunk of my time with have been amazing for me as a person. I've grown so much larger than my own depression and anxiety, and I have grown so much more as a person thanks to the connections I've made online. And through this project and through these interviews, I've realized that I'm not nearly as alone as I thought I was. I realized I have so many more meaningful connections that I can turn to when I am feeling down or depressed, and that the internet is truly a resource for good in these sorts of situations and scenarios. And for those of you who do see the internet as something where you can find only derisive people that will tear you down and make you feel worse, I'll tell you, look in different places, because your view may not be on may be on those particular places. So I'd give it some more consideration. Please look deeper when you can. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jason. Now we're going to have every participant come up. We're going to be sharing what we can do to have Delta become more connected. So can everybody come up?
Hello there. Okay. Hi, I'm Tomas. So when I joined this project, I came in I came in not really knowing much about essentially what was going to start with it. And so when I came in here and started to go with the project and such, I found that a lot of people in my community were interested in helping out, and that really changed a view in me, you know. And so I think one of the best ways that we can do when it comes to handling with depression is just to do informal things, to motivate other people every once in a while, and to understand that if someone's just walking alone or just need just walking alone or just sitting alone, just like come up to them, just like, hey, how's it going? Start conversation. Small stuff like that can lead big ripples in like one's own life and change their viewpoint entirely. So yeah.
I'm Heidi, and I'm one of the participants in the survey, or in the program. And what I found when I did my surveys and talked to people on campus is we need counselors or somewhere for people to go, because nobody knows of anywhere on campus right now. So, I know I'm not alone in this, and that's good that I don't have to deal with it by myself, but there does need to be somewhere for people to go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dawn. One of the things that I think would be wonderful that Delta College would be able to do is every semester we have Club Rush. And I think if there was a booth there during that time with a trained professional or a counselor from the department to be there to share, answer questions, to provide resources on and off the campus. Another thing that I think would be spectacular is, we have math tutoring. We have writing skills workshops. Why not have a workshop about coping skills? I mean, if we have such a high percentage of people with anxiety, depression, and so forth, why not share that with them, have a workshop, and during that time, give them the resources for on and off campus. And the reason why I say on and off campus is because depression and anxiety does not only hit Monday through Friday during school hours.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Castaneda, and my recommendation for Delta would be to hold something that I heard from a lot of students is just group meetings, just people that share the experience of going through depression and anxiety, having somebody there that is trained with it so that they can kind of mediate, but people can share their experience with it and just talk and inform people that are there about it. So whether that's people coming in that don't have experience with depression or being in that situation, they can hear other people's stories and maybe get a little bit more sympathy or empathy for that person. So that would be my recommendation. And I think the other thing I liked was puppy parties. So.
Hey, I'm Dave. Honestly, I didn't join this thing to change the world or anything. Yeah, no, one recommendation, especially while we got the dean here and whatnot. Okay, that new place over by the science and math building with that nice concrete circle that goes around. There's all those benches and whatnot. Why can't we smoke there? And why isn't there? No, hold on. Why isn't there more of okay, so the quad's supposed to be a spot where people can come kick it. There's no fucking benches, dude. We need a place where people can kick it and have some sort of sense of community or whatever. And that exists at the front of the school out by the 40 bus stop and shit, but there's bums and homeless people and all sorts of nasty stuff going on. It would be cool if we could kick it more near the center of campus and whatnot, and have more of a sense of community, and just benches, even just a bench or two out there by the tree. That would really kind of make my life at least a little bit better, and I know the lives of at least 30, 40 other people that kick it out there. So I'm just saying if that center thing it's nice out there, all that nice green grass, it could be utilized for something nice, and it's not usually. Usually it's just somewhere where people just walk by, and one more wasted space on campus where there's not any community or whatever. So if we could change that, or just like somewhere on campus more where like people could like still be part of the community rather than like, oh yeah, go smoke your cigarettes on the street, you fucking lepers type of deal, right? Like if we could have more of like, I know it's like 20 feet from doorways or whatever, I don't know exactly what the law is, but like that space would be a really nice space where people could like kick it or whatever. Even like an end of the semester party, right? If we could get some of these like in the music, like whatever, and get some big speakers out there and just have some, have some fun kind of sometimes, right? Like all work and no fun makes Jack a dull boy. So if we could just work on that while I got your ear, that would be way cool. And yeah, no, thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
Wow, I hate to piggyback on that, but here goes. So most of the people that I interviewed all had a problem with visibility of mental health services on campus. I happen to know that there are mental health services on campus, but everyone felt that it needed to be more visible. And I have this great idea. Me too, I don't really have a problem with depression per se, personally. However, we all have what I call situational depression. If my PG&E is going to get turned off, I'm depressed. If my car doesn't have gas, I might be a little depressed. So there is that. What I also would like, my idea, and it came from one of the people I interviewed, and she thought that if there was a phone call that you could make to someone on campus, to an office on campus, where a person would actually come and meet you in front of Shima 146, maybe in front of Danner, maybe at the bench by the bus stop. But if a person could run out there and meet you and talk to you, maybe you're sitting in a classroom and you just can't move. But something where you could actually make a phone call and someone would come to you. So, thank you.
All right, I'm too short for this. Okay, this is good? Okay. I feel like during all of the surveys that we did, that's like 200 surveys in general, I feel like majority of them, majority of the people here on campus do go through depression in some kind of situation. And I just feel like a simple hello goes a long way. So I think that no matter who you have in your class, you should kind of say hello to them or hi or something like that. You don't know what people are going through in their life. So I think that you guys should just talk to each other a little bit more. And you don't realize it now, but we're all so similar. We're just in different situations, that's all. And I think some people are just a little bit better at hiding their depression than others. So thank you.
All right, so the recommendation I have for Delta is just to have a place where students can cultivate more. Because when I first enrolled at Delta College, I didn't really see anywhere to go or anywhere to interact with students. Club Rush was always kind of obscure, and I never really knew about it. So I think that like putting an effort into getting more areas for students to just hang out and cultivate would help people a lot more. Even if they have depression, they could just go over there and make conversation, maybe new friends and stuff. So that's what I think Delta could do better.
So one thing, hold on. I got bent down a little. So one thing that was mentioned in the surveys from time to time, it wasn't really that mentioned much, but I still feel like that this is a big deal, is some people brought up that the cafeteria here in the building next door should be open for longer periods of time. From what I understand, and I could be wrong, at 2 o'clock, that's usually when it closes and people have to leave the building and it's not available. Well, some people suggested that maybe leaving the building open for another hour or so, because for me, what I've seen in the high schools I've been to and even going right here at UOP is they usually keep the cafeteria open until at least like at 6, maybe later. And that's usually where a lot of people come just to hang out and socialize. So I think, leaving the cafeteria, it doesn't have to be like, 8 o'clock at night, but I believe, keeping it open for like another 2 hours, maybe having it at 4, because that's when, a lot of students, there's not much traffic left. I think that would be good. It gives people a little place to hang out, and for during the seasons when the weather gets bad, they can just, be inside where it's nice and warm.
Guess I'm the last one up again. But I think the best thing for this campus would be having on-site psychiatrists that students could turn to in their times of need. Someone that students could talk to, be upfront about with their depression, anxiety, whatever other mental illnesses they may be going through at the time, to really be able to be open with these people and to really figure out what is making them tick, what could be causing these ailments, because depression is a serious issue. That's why we organize this entire event. And not treating it seriously will get us nowhere. So I think having something like a student wellness center would be incredibly advisable and an incredible step in the right direction. So, thank you all.
My recommendation comes from kind of personal experience. I have the privilege of working at a health clinic in Oregon, and they had mandatory trauma-informed trainings. And I took that, I took all the information as valuable resources. And something that Professor Adrienne Broger had mentioned was that teachers are in the front line of their classrooms. They're the ones that have to deal with students on a non-to-non basis. And they have to be there. And sometimes maybe they don't know how to deal with certain issues that are being brought up. Because everyone's very different. So I would think it would be very valuable for the school to invest in doing workshops, trauma-informed workshops, any workshop that can bring experts in and say, this is how you can deal with it, to prepare the teachers and staff, and also ultimately create this wellness in this community for everybody as a whole. I was about to sit down, and I'm going to have the following participants sit down. Thank you. So our next and final speaker is our very own Professor Heather Bradford, our counselor. She's going to come up and speak. Give her a hand.
I'm just blown away by this presentation today. It has been just awesome. Can you all give them another hand? I'm almost speechless, and that doesn't happen to me very often. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. This is such a very important topic that you all have taken on to talk about and to bring to the forefront. Depression being one of several, but one of the most common mental health challenges that many college students face. The only way that we can break the silence or end the silence and reduce the stigma is by doing things such as this. Taking the courage to come forward and to saying that, this is my experience, and knowing that you're not alone and that you have resources and help and those around you that will take you seriously and be there for you and help you figure out your way and what will work best for you. There's no one right answer, just like there's no one form of depression. No one experiences it in the same way. And while depression clinically can't be diagnosed, self-diagnosed, it has to come from a medical diagnosis, that doesn't mean that the symptoms that a person may experience and know very well that they've been experiencing something that doesn't feel right. I know this isn't me. I know that this isn't normal to feel this way. I want to let you know that we do have help available, and there is great things happening at Delta College. I've been a counselor at Delta for the past 25 years, a little bit going into my 26th year as a counselor at Delta College. And over the time of my experience working as a counselor at Delta, I have seen an increase of students that are struggling with mental health challenges. You wouldn't necessarily know it on the surface just looking at them. They're very bright, they're very articulate, they might be excellent students. But nevertheless, they do have struggles, day-to-day struggles in managing their mental illness or their mental health condition. So it's been on my heart and it's been my passion to really bring more of a culture of health and wellness to Delta College. We are missing having a student health center, as many community colleges do. Community colleges that have student health centers are able to have mental health counselors on staff, nurses, other people that students can go to. But in light of that, and short of that, even not having a student health center, there's still a lot that we can do, and a lot that we have done, and a lot more that we are planning to do. There's the misconception that counselors are only available to do academic planning and to help you figure out your classes and to transfer. Well, guess what? That's not the case. We are all trained, and as part of our job description, we are all trained mental health master's degree counselors. We are all trained to do crisis intervention. We are all trained to do assessment, and we can make appropriate referrals. The majority of the students that I see come to my office that talk to me on personal issues or personal counseling, the majority of them, they just need someone to listen to them. They feel overwhelmed, they feel unable to cope with the pressures that they're experiencing, and a lot of times they just need a listening ear. They need someone to sit down in a non-judgmental way, help them figure out what they're gonna do, help them figure out a plan, or just listen to them and help them to realize that, hey, what I'm experiencing is just normal. I'm not crazy. And sometimes that's all that's needed. Our counseling staff is open for counseling. And we have a number of counselors who are part of our intervention team, meaning that we have gone on and done some specialized training for crisis intervention. We also have done some additional work in grief therapy, as well as depression recovery. I myself am on the board of NAMI of San Joaquin County, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I sat on the board of NAMI for the last year and a half. And one of the reasons that I joined the board of NAMI was to bring more NAMI support to Delta College and to bridge that liaison between our community, mental health services and supports, and us. And so that way I can be that voice that on campus that can make those connections with our community. We have a number of awesome resources in our community through NAMI, support groups, family groups, educational classes. We are planning to bring a NAMI Connections group to Delta College, so that there is a support group right on our campus that is a peer-led group for students to have a voice and to belong to. We also have coming up, I was also applied for and received a small grant to begin an Active Minds chapter on our campus. Active Minds is a national organization that was founded by a young lady whose brother in college committed suicide. She organized Active Minds to be an organization that's student-led on college and university campuses to be a voice for mental health. And it's a successful program that is run on several college campuses in the area. I believe UOP has an Active Minds chapter. I was able to meet some of the individuals that have Active Minds running at Sac State. And we are going to launch an Active Minds chapter here at Delta College in the fall. We have an I'm so excited. We already got T-shirts and all the launching materials. We're having an informational meeting. Anyone interested in possibly being part of the Active Minds Club, it's going to be run as a student club, so it has to follow the guidelines of running up a student club. So we will be out there for Club Rush this coming year to advocate for Active Minds, but it also has to follow the guidelines to be a chartered chapter of Active Minds on a national level. I will be the advisor of Active Minds, but I also have several faculty and staff members that have already said that they want to be involved. And so we are having an informational meeting tomorrow at 12 o'clock in Dorico 275. So if you're around and want to come out and learn more about Active Minds, come out and join us. And I wanted to also let you know that I brought with me Drew Strand, who is our outreach coordinator for NAMI of San Joaquin. Welcome, Drew. Drew and I will be available at the conclusion during lunch to answer questions that you may have. Drew came with resources about some of the support groups in the community, classes, peer-to-peer family classes and other supports that we have through NAMI. And so if you have any questions for me or for Drew, we'll be around for the lunch, and we welcome your questions. And thank you again for allowing us to be here. And please know that good things are coming. This is just the start of something great, and the conversation doesn't have to end today.
So thank you, Professor Bradford. Now it's time for questions. So Thomas, Medina, and I will go out in the audience. So if you have any questions, and we have 10 minutes.
So does anyone have any questions from the audience when it comes to generally about like the Break the Silence experience, or about like ways that one can like help out the community when it comes to depression?
What do you think was the hardest part of this project?
So I say like one of the hardest parts when it came to doing Break the Silence was partly the organization to kind of set everything up to bring awareness about such a topic like this, because like having like 10 kind of essential like random strangers, to come together in a group every Friday, there's some bumps in the road every so often, but I think the overall experience paid off, right? And because everything in life is a trade-off when it comes to things, So I think the overall experience of what we capitalized in, right, when it came to like personal capital, I think it was worth it, So yeah. That's a good question, by the way. So.
Okay, I don't know if can you guys hear me good? I think one of the hardest things for this project was the surveys, because it's kind of hard to approach somebody and then ask them, hey, do you deal with depression, or do you know somebody who deals with depression? It's a personal subject that, for me, even I felt, even though I like talking to people, I kind of felt like I'm invading their space a little bit. So I think that was the hardest part of the whole project, because a lot of people, they're not able to talk about their depression, or they're not able to talk about whatever that their family members or whoever that's going through depression. It's a hard topic. So I think that was the hardest part of it, was the surveys and asking them those personal questions and really getting those answers out of them. Because I noticed that some people were in denial about having depression, or some people didn't really want to answer certain things. So I had to change some of the answers on the surveys too. So yeah, I think that survey was the hardest part.
I'd say the most difficult thing when it came to this project was figuring out what I wanted to write about. There were so many topics that I felt like applied to us as students so profoundly that I didn't know what to pick. And after a while, I had molded over, not only in my, with myself, I'd molded over with others, not only in this group, but some of the friends online I had mentioned previously. And through that, I had figured out, I was like, why not talk about these people who have helped me online? So I think that was one of the toughest parts, and the surveys were also fairly difficult, because yes, it did feel like somewhat of an invasion of space, because depression is this topic that some people do tend to find very taboo. So yes.
For me, the surveys were not so bad, because it gave me the opportunity to sit and talk one-on-one with people, which I love to do. But the hard part was submitting my work, because you want to do it right, and you have to just submit. You can't wait to be perfect. And like Jason said, figuring out exactly what to talk about, that was very difficult. And I know we're running out of time. We only have 10 minutes. And I saw at least 2 questions in the back. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, anyone else has questions? Oh, okay, yeah, you, sir?
Someone shed light on this earlier about the importance of storytelling, about how it's able to take these very complex ideas that aren't so black and white, that are black and gray. And so what that got me thinking about storytelling is got me thinking about poetry. And I was wondering how any of you ever thought about poetry as a form of cooking, because it's a crazy platform to be able to talk about taboo topics.
Wait, Is that Mark? Right? Okay. Because he does poetry. That's why he's bringing that up. And it's actually funny because when I was doing surveys, people were saying to do poetry. That way that you can express your feelings, because I feel like poetry and music, they go hand in hand together, where writing in general, you can express things that you can't really express just speaking about it. So I feel like, yeah, poetry is a very good way of delivering that to people to understand. I feel like that's the misconception about, people, because they don't understand each other. So that's why you think, okay, because this person's going through depression, they're going through this, they're weird. It's not weird. It's a normal thing that people go through. It's just people don't want to talk about it. So I think that's good, Mark.
I want to add in a little bit of my experience here, because I'm an artist, and so I totally relate when it comes to the field, not necessarily in poetry, but more on the side of like fine art and such like that. I mean, I love storytelling when it comes to comic books, when it comes to manga, when it comes to movies and all that. So I feel like that form of communication on an emotional level is really one of the best ways that you can spread forth philosophies and feelings when it comes to such heavy topics as this. So yeah.
I just wanted to add about your question about poetry. I actually do poetry to help me cope with things, but I think what's so important is finding your voice in whatever suits you. Like Michael said, he found his voice in journalism. Some of us do audio, some of us do video. So it's whatever media works for you, whatever, form that can help you. It can even be athletics. It's just about finding your voice and finding that expression of who you are.
Any other questions here? Or? You have one? Okay. Yeah.
Look, you've been an incredibly supportive audience. I have one question for Professor Bradford, and that is, you're laying out a very exciting sort of supportive, has she left? Okay, the question is, we'd be very anxious because what we have here are a group of students who've come together, looked at the campus, surveyed over 158 other people, and come up with some ideas. So we need to make sure there is a connecting point. Hi, Ms. Bradford. I'm just saying we need finally to build a bridge between this brain trust of silence whisperers, breaking the silence, and the very exciting project you're suggesting. What I think the great help that all of you doing the survey, the questionnaire, as you leave will give us is a little more information. But we hope that you will read the journal and you will look at this brain trust and figure out how we can keep building on what these students have put together. As a last word, one person who hasn't come to the front of the room is my colleague, Jaya Padmanaban, who was such a critical editor in supporting this. Jaya, are you still out there? Can you just come? The back and forth editorial process. No, I don't want this cut. I don't want it changed. No, the whole process of editing, having somebody you trust. I mean, it's an inevitable part of the process. And Jaya, thank you so much for being the partner in crime on this. We hope you will enjoy lunch and enjoy conversation and see the wonderful group of partners who want to move Delta forward on breaking the silence. Thank you.
Before we finish, Carmen has something for you on behalf for each of you.
Oh.
Where is it? So our graphic artist professor was able to print something for us. We wanted you to have.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Everybody. I don't know if the painter of this portrait is in the room, but that was just such a spectacular contribution. And now we get to keep it on the wall with everybody's name. That's wonderful. Thank you again, and please enjoy the lunch.